guys, welcome back. We have another guest today. A lot of guys and gals, I should say, might have recognized this handsome gentleman.
That's right, man.
All right, so today we're going to be talking about what to do with time jacking clients. You got that one client that takes up all of your time. How do you handle them? And how do you keep your sanity? So Lee, I feel that you've had a recent experience that brought this conversation up, and I wanted to sort of dive into the logistics of it all and hear how you overcame that issue. Because I know we're not the only ones here that have been struggling with this. So what's going on, Lee?
Ah, man. Well, so I'm just coming out one of those weeks where I feel, as I say, like a one-armed monkey in a poo-flinging contest. And I will. Let me start this off by saying that how I went all about all this was completely wrong.
Okay.
And so what I'm going to be sharing with you today is largely in retrospect. Having I know better than to let one client take all my time. I know that. I've been doing this 12 years. I know better. But you can know better and still let it happen.
Sure.
That's just life. And that was really what happened here. And I have nothing bad to say about the client. Wonderful people. It just wasn't a good fit for me. And, looking back at it, I knew that from the beginning. And,
so take us back to the beginning. So you don't have to get into the super details, but this was a pretty high paying client.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to share numbers, but it was a high paying client. They came to you with an opportunity and you bit.
I did. At that time, I was frustrated enough with, the sales conversations and, it took a couple of years to make that transition from, low cost copywriter to copywriter. Look, I've worked with Russell, I've worked with Dan, I've worked with all these people. You don't get me for peanuts anymore. Right. And so, I was in this transition, and so I have the clients, but maybe not the consistency. And so then one of my clients says, look, let's just, take you off the market exclusively, and we'll do a monthly retainer. And at that time, I made the choice to go the safe route, which has never really panned out that way for me, but live and don't learn. So at any rate, so I did some exclusive work for them for several months. And some of the disagreements that were moderate problems in the beginning grew into full-blown crises. And we terminated our relationship rather abruptly, civilly but abruptly.
Okay.
So here I am, a copywriter who has successfully written copy for Dan Kennedy's Glazer Kennedy Insider Circle, now No BS, who has worked for Russell Brunson for over 4 years, who has done copy for a lot of fantastic people, including you.
Yeah.
And, so, and here I am sitting here with no freaking clients. And I'm like, well, that was dumb. Yeah. Right. By that, let me correct that. No active projects going on. Right.
Right.
So at that point I went, yeah, this is why you don't do that. But that can happen. It can happen easily enough, and if you've been chasing clients around for years, that can seem like a tempting thing, even though it might not be in your best interest.
Sure. So let me ask you this. How would you want to do it differently if you had the opportunity to do it again?
If I had the opportunity to do it again, I would have maintain the relationship as a contractor, freelancer, and just not brought in that exclusivity element. Because when you start looking at okay, you know what, we're going to pay you X amount a month, and then we'll just do whatever we need. That's going to work outside of your favor really quickly, because it doesn't matter whether you're spending 20 hours a week on them or 80 hours a week on them, you're still getting paid the same. So
right.
it's just not a great position to be in, unless it's just enough to cover everything you could ever possibly want, and somehow your entrepreneurial itch goes out the window.
Yeah.
Because at that point, it's basically a job.
Right. So what were the expectations up front? Other than the exclusivity clause, like you're only going to do copy for us now.
Well, that was more understood, and it was like the pretty much my time was theirs, and but it was okay. We're going to call this part-time, but you're going to be generally available during working hours, which is all good. There's absolutely nothing wrong with any of that. It just doesn't work for somebody like me who's wired to be an entrepreneur and run the show and not have to account for where I was at 9:00. and that sort of thing. Hey, we sent you so. Again, there's not anything wrong with that. It's just it was an environment that I knew from previous experience wasn't good for me, and I again just made the wrong decision out of purely out of what was easier rather than what made more sense.
Right. And so there's a lesson learned right there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lesson learned right there. Is the easier route always the best?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I had an interesting conversation with somebody who's been emailing me over the past couple of days. They've been asking me to redo landing page designs for them inside of their funnels. And I had to keep telling the guy no, unfortunately, because he was like, he just kept throwing money at me. Like, here, I got $4,000. Can you do it? Here, I got $6,000. Can you do it? And then we got all the way up to like $8,000. And I told him, I said, listen, let me ask you a question here. Would you let a doctor perform surgery on you without knowing what the cause or issues were inside your body? And like the answer was no. Right? So I said, I would not want to take your $8,000, redesign these funnel pages for you, and then have them still flop because that wasn't the issue. So my question to him was, how do you know that these designs on these 4 pages that you want me to redo are the culprit and the problem? No answer. So I said, listen, you could come inside my brand accelerator program. We could do all of the strategy and all of that diagnosing up front. And then after what we discover, if it makes sense to redo those pages, then we'll redo the pages. But I would be a horrible doctor to come in and start performing surgery on you if I didn't know what the real issues were. So I get an email from him this morning. It was great. He said, that's not what I want. I want these 4 pages changed. I want these 4 pages redesigned. I said, more power to you. Good luck. I wish you well. I could have easily took the $8,000. But what would have happened had I redone those pages without doing that thorough strategy and diagnosis up front, and those pages flop? Who's the axe going to get thrown at?
That's right.
So we learn a valuable lesson here. If it's low-hanging fruit, or if there's a big price tag attached to it, or it's a big payout, I should say, it might not always necessarily be a home run, right? And now what happens? You end the relationship abruptly. It's civil, but it'll take some time to reheal, and we're still at, well, I need to bring in more consistent clientele. I'm back where I started, for lack of better words. So, Lee, what would you tell the audience if they were struggling with something like that too, and they're on the verge of like throwing in the towel, perhaps even giving back the money, right, after they've done a whole bunch of work, just to like be done with it all? Like, what would you say to those folks?
Right on. So somebody just asked what the topic was, and we're talking about what happens when a client takes up way too much of your time, because I've just recently had that, and we abruptly ended the relationship, and then I'm like found myself starting from square one because I hadn't been devoting enough time to clients. First of all, you really need to decide whether that relationship is worth it to you to continue. Is that going to continue to meet your needs a year, 5 years from it? Internet years are like dog years, okay? Things change so fast that you can't just assume, or it's, to me, unsafe to assume that what's working for you now is going to work for you 6 months or a year from now. So if you're in the online space and you've got clients like that, it's always a good idea to keep in mind that things shift rapidly. The other thing, fortunately, I've been in this game for a while. I've been in meltdowns like this before, and so you can see those things coming. You can see where things are getting tense enough that it can't be resolved. And if it's that point, that's the time I got out a piece of paper and I wrote down every possible way I could think of making money.
Okay.
Online, offline, from pimping hoes to writing copy to
that's a combination. Pimping hoes and writing copy.
Pimping hoes and writing copy. But no, realistically, pimping hoes it didn't crack the list, and my wife wouldn't allow it. So I think I ended up with about 53 different things. And I was like, that to me just reminded me, that was all of that to remind myself, you're not screwed. You did, because there's always, with something like that, there's this fear, that imposter syndrome just goes crazy, and you're like, oh my God, I will never have a client again. I must totally suck. Everything I've done is null and void because this just blew it up in my face, and I am never going to have a client again, and I'm going to die in a ditch somewhere. Stop, breathe, use your brain. And it's like, once you remind yourself, you know what, worst comes to worst, I can drive for Uber. I can, I can do whatever if I have to, but is it going to come to that? No.
I've
got
9 times out of 10, it doesn't.
No.
9 times out of 10, it doesn't. And people, I've been going through that myself. Like, really, I had this conversation with my cousin not too long ago, and we were talking about how attracting the right clients, attracting the right people in your life, and getting to the point where you start to reflect and say to yourself, is it me? Like, is it me? Because you'll read the books and you'll listen to those personal development people, and they'll say, you are what you attract, right? You'll hear me say it in my branding, like, if the quality of your clients will determine the quality of your brand, or I should say the other way, the quality of your brand will determine the quality of your clients. So, if you have a shitty looking brand, you're probably going to attract low budget, low quality clients. Just saying. So we were talking about, every once in a while both of us, we get these knuckleheads that come into our lives, right? And we say, is this me? Like, is it me bringing in those people? And, at the end of the day, it does come to a numbers game. Like, there's going to be X number of people that are going to come into your life that aren't good fits. They may seem like good fits up front. Camo, fucks, please ask the question. We are more than happy to talk about it. People are going to come into your life and they're not going to be good fits, and you're just going to have to learn how to navigate them and learn how to handle them. It's not what they do to you, it's how you react to them. So, you want to give them the benefit of the doubt, you want to hear them out. But if it's not a good fit, I would strongly advise that you just tell them up front, I don't think this is going to work. Like, so there's been a good, I don't know, let's say 5 or 6 people that have come into my stratosphere that weren't good fits. And I just have to keep saying no, because I'm to the point now where, like, I don't want to work with just anyone. I just don't want to work with people that I know just by having a 20-minute conversation with them that it's going to be a disaster up front. Because I know me, that person, let's get something straight here, guys. I'm not saying that these people are bad people. I'm just saying that I know me well enough to know that this connection is not going to work out, because I know how I operate and I'm just not vibing with the person. So there's no right or wrong here. Like, that's kind of what I want you guys to get out of this, is there's no right or wrong. It's that self-awareness needs to be there so that you could prevent these issues. Because I used to take these clients on all the time. I used to get clients throwing 15, 20 grand at me to do work. And like, they wanted me to be home by 5 p.m. Like, so, and like, that's not going to work for me, just like you. So I ask up front now, this is how I work. This is the system. This is the process. Does this resonate with you? Is this something that you're even interested in? Is this something that you could go through? Because if it's not, the last thing I want you to do is go through it and have it end in a horrible manner because you didn't trust it up front, or you knew it wasn't going to be something that you were interested in the first place.
Right. Exactly.
So here's a good question, Storm King. How do you know when it's time to navigate the client and step away? It's a good question.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. That's buddy. Hey, Alex. That's Alex. Who's it's what do you say about this? To me, I mean, it's a gut thing.
Yeah.
To others, it may be data driven. I mean, it's like, okay, if they check 3 red flags, then it's time to go. I mean, it's there's no perfect system for everybody, I don't think.
No.
I think that what you need to do is come up with a general metric of what you will and won't put up with, and the clearer you are about that at the onset, as you said, Henry, being specific about your expectations and knowing, look, this is what I do and this is how I work.
Yeah.
That also means being willing to step away from the relationship, which is a whole different thing.
Yeah. I think having those clear expectations up front is first and foremost. Don't be afraid to let them know your process. Your process is not going to be for everybody. And that is a good thing. That is a very good thing, because you will weed out 90% of the people that you don't want to work with. That's key. But I think the telltale signs of it's time to go is when you do not feel inspired or happy or motivated about the work. And some people will criticize me on that and say, not every job's going to be a home run, June. Not every job is going to be a walk in the park. Not every job is going to be awesome. Like, there's going to be shit that you don't want to do. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think when the animosity starts to rise to the top and you start to get uncomfortable about the project, I think you need to immediately sit down with the client and say, here's what's going on. Okay. But you have to do it in an amicable way. You have to do it in a professional way.
Mm-hmm.
You can't start screaming at each other. You know, I'll give you a funny example. Earlier this year, I had a client come to me. He threw $50,000 at me to do two funnel designs. And he's a big shot in the funnel world.
Mm-hmm.
But as I got to know him, he's really a bully. And he likes to throw his money around, and he likes to do that kind of stuff. And so what I realized was the minute I started to feel bullied, I wasn't having it anymore. And most people would have conceded because he is pretty intimidating looking, right?
Sure.
But most people would have bowed down to him and said, yes, master, whatever you want me to do, master. You paid me $50,000, master. I will do whatever you say, master. And that wasn't me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had the conversation with him and said, listen, buddy, I don't want to torture you any further. I said, I think it's about time that we dissolve this relationship and this partnership. I said, don't get me wrong, dude. I think you're a great guy. And if I ever saw you out, I'd have a beer with you. But the business relationship isn't working. This is not how I operate, and it's clearly not the way you operate. And so here's what we'll do. Let me go home. Let me look at the work that was rendered thus far. As I put 50 hours worth of work into this already, right? It's not like we're still talking to each other, right? So put 50 hours worth of work into this already. I'm not ready to give that up. Like, that money's been spent on my team building all this stuff out already, right? So I said, let me go home and look at how much time was rendered, and I will make sure that I refund you of the fair amount, right? And he said, well, what are you talking about? If we're going to be talking about how much time was spent, well, then I'm going to send you an invoice for all the time you wasted me. So I said, and then he starts to try to name his price. And I'm like, you're going to send me this much money back right now. And I'm like, no, it doesn't operate like that. I said, so let me go back and do what I need to do. And I can promise you, I will be fair with you. I'm not here to take your money, but I'm not here to work for free either. And we put in a lot of time and effort into this, right? And the good thing is I recorded everything. So I have him reviewing funnel designs, him saying, oh my God, I love it. This is awesome. Like, I have all of that recorded, and I still do to this day. So if I ever had to go to court or something like that, I have all of that. I have all of that, evidence. But I knew right away that, like, here's a guy that was trying to bully me into working for free or working on his terms, when I clearly said to him up front, this is the process. Here are the milestones. We are going to hit every milestone we possibly can on the right times and do great work. And it was funny that every milestone that I hit, there was no issue. But everything that I asked him to do by his milestone, I would get like a half-assed deliverable. Like, I would get images, but they were low quality. I would get copy, but it was half done. Like, how do I leverage my team to help you get what you want when you're not coming up with your half, right? Because we do 90% of the work for you, right? But there's certain deliverables that we need to do what we do. So that's something that's out of our control, right? So Anyway, long story short, I refunded him a considerable amount of money. I kept a decent amount to cover my costs and my time, and we went our separate ways. And the funny thing is the last thing that he said to me was, once this is done, it's done. We're not going on social media and talking about it. We're not doing this. We're not doing that. And I said, no, we're not. I would never mention his name. I would never throw him under the bus.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But him saying that makes me think that this wasn't the first issue with working with other people that this individual had. So
Right.
That's the long-winded answer because I wanted to give you some context behind that. The reason why I called timeout and said, all right, we're done.
Okay.
But I think that's where you got to be happy, just like they got to be happy. Like all the shit, the customers, the never wrong, if you lay out the proper expectations up front and they still combat you and they still come after you and they still disregard all of those expectations, then who's wrong? Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I'm not here to point fingers either, but I guess the moral of the story is this: in business, you are going to come across people that look like knights in shining armor up front, and then as you get to know them, the armor starts to decay, it starts to fall off, and you get to see the real person. And that person may not be a good fit for your life, or that client may not be a good fit for your business. And so I'm here standing up for all of us saying, as clients, we deserve the right fit for vendors.
Mm-hmm.
But as a vendor, we deserve the right client, especially if you do great work. I think any great vendor should enjoy great clients.
I would say you're right because, and again, people could be absolutely wonderful, but not a good fit to work with.
Yeah.
And once you start becoming happy, I noticed that as I tried to ignore, like, I don't like this anymore, but I'm weighing that against, oh, well, they need me and I've got, a salary coming in, and then maybe I'll just put up with it for a little while longer. And not only does that increase, but unhappiness breeds hopelessness because you start feeling like you're stuck.
Yeah.
And one of the things, when other than making a list of all the ways that I could possibly do this, a couple of other things I did that really helped was, one, going back and going through all my testimonials. In fact, that was the first thing that I did was like, hey, I got to dust some things off anyway. Let's take a look at my testimonials, some of which I haven't even posted yet, of people of all walks of life, from coaching to product sales to, to these different disciplines over the years, and just saying, my God, we can't believe how awesome your work is. And that then I did that intentionally because I knew that was what was going to slap me out of that, oh crap, this is hopeless, I'm never going to have a client again, everything's screwed, woe is me, was just looking at those at the past feedback, because we can look at a grain of doubt and a mountain of evidence and still give a greater weight to the grain of doubt.
This is good stuff because I really want people to understand that, when you have great clients, you're going to have a greater life. I'm a firm believer of that. And I believe that everybody deserves to have that person. And I think going forward, as you start to become more established as an entrepreneur and you get to become a little bit more seasoned, you're going to find that confidence and you're going to say no more than you're going to say yes. And you don't have to take every job, and you should only take the ones that feel good and you know that you're going to do exceptional work for that person. So, you know, when I'm interviewing clients and they're interviewing me at the same time, I'm looking at their demeanor. I'm listening to their voice and tone, and I'm asking questions that I want answered. Otherwise, you're leaving a lot of unknown. And the minute somebody cuts you a check, everything gets intensified, right? Because now there's money on the line. And so as we wrap up, I just want to share with you one thing that I found to be very, very helpful for me over the past, I would say 18 months or so. I got very good with managing my money. And I put 30% away. So I only live off of 70% of what I own. Okay. And that 10% goes into marketing. People are asking me, why is your Instagram growing so fast? Well, the past 2.5 months, I've been spending a couple grand a month with advertising. So of course it's going to grow. You put energy and time and money behind something, it's going to grow.
Sure.
Right. So, but I put money away for marketing. I put money away just to put it away, just so I don't have to worry about not having money, right? And then I put 10% into a little investment portfolio online. It's called Acorns, and it basically invests my money without having to be a stock market analyst, right?
Yeah, that's a great tool.
And so I have a great nest egg of savings that, you know, a lot of people would have to take 2-3 years to make that sort of revenue. And that helps me tremendously make better qualifying decisions on who it is I work with and who it is that I don't want to work with. And I just share that with you guys because I feel like a lot of times people back themselves into the corner and then they have to take the work because they feel like they have to take it. Otherwise they can't keep the lights on. That's not necessarily the case. And so I definitely want to make sure I want to make sure that you guys really understand that. Like when you make money, it's very important to understand what to do with that money once you make it, because a lot of these pro athlete clients that I'm bringing through the Brand Accelerator program, I'm starting to realize that there's no parental guidance. These guys are 23, 24 years old. Like I'm 39. I'm by no means old, but like these guys are kids compared to me, right? And like they sign $1 million check or a $4 million contract. What the hell's 50,000 on a chain? What the hell's, you know, 225,000 on a car? Nothing. Right? So like my question is, like every time people ask me, I can't believe you spent that money on influencer marketing. I go, well, I could have spent it on a steak. The steak isn't going to help me get more clients, right? But that $100 I spent on Millionaire Mentor, big shout out to Jason Stone, to help me, you know, get my name out there. What is that going to bring me? You know, I heard this guy say I was watching a video. He's doing one of those live closes that like, you know, he's filming his team like on the phone with a client and he's like closing him. Well, one thing he did say was that I did pick up, I thought was interesting. He said to the prospect, where else are you going to spend $10,000 and have it potentially return you millions? That's how I think about reinvesting in my business. I'd rather spend a few $100s a week investing in myself and in my business than on some stupid shit. But I'm able to do that because I have that money saved. I've allocated that money. So managing your money is just as important as freaking growing your business. And I'm no financial expert by any means, but I almost lost my shit a couple times. You guys know. and I'm just a lot more wiser. I'm not by any means smarter, but I'm just wiser with how I spend my money. So bottom line is, you have that nest egg put away, somebody's giving you a hard time, you know what you could tell them without feeling bad. So that's what we're trying to encourage here on today's live, is to really just make sure that you, not in a selfish way, I don't mean to say this in a selfish way, but put yourself first to make sure that this is a client that you're going to be happy with and that you're going to be able to provide great results for, right? And if you can positively say to yourself, I'm certain that I can help this person, right? And I know that this is going to work, then it's a no-brainer. You make it work. But if you get that gut feeling like, they said something that just didn't sit tight with me, you know right away that you're cruising for a bruising. And I don't want to see that happen to any of us. And, that's why Lee and I said, let's have this conversation. It's ripe.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's other people out there that are experiencing this too. So, any parting words, my friend?
Wow. It's never as bad as you think it is. I mean, we are, and I'm not the first person to say this. I mean, I remember a couple of days listening to an older Gary Vee piece where he says that I wish that people could just step into the boots of their great-grandfathers for one day and just see how effing tough they had it. They didn't have side hustles because it got dark at 9 o'clock and there was no internet. We really do have more opportunities than anyone at any time ever. And it's not hopeless. I mean, it's just, 50 years ago, it could have been.
Yeah.
But, if you're at a point where you're stuck, the opportunities there's more opportunities than you could ever take advantage of. It's just a matter to tune into the ones that resonate with you and block out the noise.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Well, last but not least, I think I'm beating a dead drum here, but beating a dead horse here, but
dead drum.
Dead drum. I just want everybody to know that they have a choice in the decision-making process. You really do. It may feel like you don't because you don't have money in your bank account, or you don't know how you're going to keep your lights on next month, or you're not going to know how to pay that rent. I can promise you that it all works out at the end. It always works out at the end. It's not, and I back this up with what Lee said, it's not as bad as you think it is. And I believe that if you show confidence in your skill and ability and your confidence to say no, that is going to make them want you more. I've seen it 1,000 times. So make sure that you're qualifying the client as much as they're trying to qualify you. And they're going to feel it. They're going to say to you, you know what? The questions you asked me were very different from the questions that I've gotten asked from other vendors. Mm-hmm. That's why I went with you.
Right.
So I'll leave you with that, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate all of you guys. The Effectual Introvert is an awesome, awesome dude.
Yep.
And again, real quick, before I wrap up. So I'm doing a little contest this week. We're trying to get 7,000 new people to the Brand Doctor account. And so what I'm asking you guys to do is, last week we broke 4,000. So I'm up in the bar to 7,000. Let's see if we can do it. If you can share my content to more people and get that out to more people, so we can make, not just me, we can make a bigger impact. what I'm going to do is the people that tag me in their shares, I'm keeping a mental note on who's putting in that effort. And on Sunday, I am going to cast a couple winners, and they are going to get some really cool prizes. So
that's cool.
Yeah. So we're going to keep it really simple, but my ask for you guys today is to, if you find this content shareable and valuable, I'm not going to be able to impact the masses by myself. I'm going to need you guys. And I ask if you could do that for me, that would be awesome.
Fantastic. I you know what? I have full confidence that you're going to hit that goal and then some. So it's, you know, it's already done. So, you know, you guys get out there and share. You know, we love doing this thing, but we love it even more when we actually help other people succeed and get some of the roadblocks out of their lives. Because,
Agreed.
you know, there are tens of thousands of people who could teach you how to market online. But not that many who are willing to, you know, step outside the shtick and, you know, tell you what it takes to survive and thrive as a marketer online. So, you know, we appreciate you hanging out, checking in, you know, follow, you know, well, you know, you guys are already following the brand doctor. Good Christ, come follow me, Lee Roley. You know, I'm everywhere. I'm more busier over on LinkedIn these days than I am on Instagram, but I'm the Lee Roley over there too. So, you know,
awesome.
You know, share this stuff. Get this guy his 7,000. Let's make it happen.
Thanks a lot, guys. Listen, have an amazing day, and we will see you next Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern.
Right on.
Peace out.